So I think you have a pretty significantly different, transitioning to our next topic, view of like astrology than I do. And I would love to hear about what you think about it, because I think I have a very, 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 very strong opinion I think is different than yours. And I'm really like, we've never really talked about this.
No, I think astrology to me is appropriately rated, and I think that's because my perception of the topic is that nobody is taking it that seriously, because at a certain point everyone does know it's a pseudoscience. It is different than astronomy. It is different than physics. Like, it is like a fun idea that might have bearing, might not have bearing, but that's okay. And I just think that like it's fun. I do not believe in astrology necessarily myself, because I'm a Leo, and I look at all the characteristics of a Leo, and I do see a lot of qualities in that line up with me. But they're like, if you read the qualities of all of the zodiac and the horoscopes, like you have qualities of all of them. It's just that like each grouping of that kind of person, you can definitely find ways to see yourself in that horoscope and mold yourself to it, or like almost have a self-fulfilling prophecy about it, and convince yourself that like, oh yeah, I am so totally this. But I also think that maybe it could be grounded in some reality as far as like when you were born, not necessarily from the sense of like where was the Earth in the solar system and the universe and the galaxy, and how does that align to your personality. I don't think any of that is ever true, but like maybe there's a significant difference being born in December versus being born in spring. Like as a child, like if you're exposed to a lot of cold, that develops your immune system very, very, very quickly. Like, so how does that impact your development and your growth? How does having summer birthdays impact your life? Maybe it turns you into a pool days person. How does being born in January, celebrating your birthday every year in the middle of winter, how does that celebrate how you view those things? Because for me, pool days is like associated with my birthday.
Sure.
And so I have those feelings of like riding that high. So, I mean, I think for me, that's how I think about it. Like maybe there are some impacts to that. But that's pretty much it. I don't hold it too strongly. I think to continue the topic, you're just waiting.
I'm just waiting.
You're just waiting.
I'm just patiently waiting for you to be done.
Like, I look at the Enneagram that was really popular back, like, a few years back. I love the Enneagram. Before that was the Myers-Briggs. Loved that. And, I mean, I think now, like, those are out of vogue, and astrology is back in vogue. That was really popular in, the 90s and early 2000s, and then, nobody talked about it, and now everybody's talking about it. And I think it's just one more round of that is probably, it's less based in science.
Yeah.
But I love the Enneagram, and I love the Myers-Briggs, and I loved learning about who I am, and I loved learning about who other people are and connecting the gaps between that. And I think ultimately that's what the meaning of astrology is to other people right now. It's a means of connecting their own identity and the identity of other people. Cool. That's my hot take.
So I've actually never, and you brought up a really good point that I've never heard anyone bring up before, which I think, like, when seasonally you were born might have something to affect, like, your development.
Yeah.
And that could be very easily, like, studied of, like, if you have a winter birth, does that affect, like, you could group that cohort together and be like, and you could study that time, like, year over year and study development.
Yeah.
And that would be like a legitimately interesting thing, and you could legitimately measure that.
Yeah.
And test for that. But I want to I'm going to pull up in my notes real quick because I took a screenshot of something that so you were born, so you know how like the soul, we're moving through space always on a rock, and the Earth does this over time. It like processes a bit.
Yeah. So
astrology was came into existence, Western astrology came into existence like 2,500 years ago. And in the time that it began to now, there's been enough procession that the entire astrological calendar is actually off by over a month. So like you were born August 10th.
Yeah.
So you would actually still be a Leo, but you are the first day of being a Leo.
Wow. Because
Leo is now August 10th through September 16th.
What?
Because of like the procession, and like I am born, I should be an Aquarius,
right?
Because I'm January 27th, but now I'm actually a Capricorn. So that's my issue with astrology, is like the position, because it's all about the position of the sun against constellations.
Yeah.
And so like on my birthday, the sun was in the constellation of Capricorn, not Aquarius.
Right.
So it's all bullshit.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because like all the people are like, I'm a Gemini.
It's like, are you really?
You're not a Gemini. You're actually, I don't actually know when Geminis traditionally are born.
Wait. But don't they already take that into account?
They
because,
do not.
But like I thought, they don't. They don't at all.
They do not. Because literally I would be a Capricorn in my entire life. They've been like, you're born on January 27th? You're an Aquarius.
That's interesting.
So it's like, if they were updating the calendar as it goes and then still basing stuff on that, like I would have more, there would be more creative. But like to your point, and this is just this is anecdotal, all anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Like I had a conversation with a girl when I was a server, and I was a bartender, and she was a bartender, and she cheated on her girlfriend, and I was like, "That's messed up." And she goes, "Well, I'm just a Taurus." And I was like, you're a human being who's being a dick to her girlfriend, and you're justifying that through astrology?
Yeah,
At a certain point, you've got to set aside the astrology and take ownership for your actions.
Correct.
That's not everyone. There is the sliding scale of like, it's like Harry Potter houses. And like, to that effect, I'm all on board with it. It's a fun thing to talk about over a casual dinner.
Correct.
Like, get a couple laughs in. Yeah, these are the things that Slytherins are like, and Gryffindors are like this. And it's like, if it's that, fine. Yeah. I'm totally cool with it. If you're literally like basing your life decisions, and I know that you would say like, people don't do that. You have not been in the service industry like I have.
I am sure people do. And that's why it's kind of hard for me to have a take on like, is it appropriately rated? Like, because I'm just basing the assumption that like, people know at the end of the day, it's really not based on much. Yeah, I would go a step further and say it's like legitimately harmful for some people. Yeah, and I did have a family member that actually did like, they do hard believe in that in a spiritual way. Like that and that's difficult to ever overcome because for them it's not a scientific thing. Yeah, it's a belief. Yeah, and so like, they believe. I don't want to come and when you bring that up to people that believe in astrology, it's like it's just like a religion, like anything else. Yeah. They get really offended. Correct. Yeah. Very quickly. Yeah, and so it's like hard to like. They're like, no, it's not a religion. It's like, but like legitimately it is because you're basing like life decisions and how you feel people and like using it to be prejudicial against certain people's. Ooh. Because like I've literally had a girl be like, "Oh, you're an Aquarius? I don't date Aquariuses. I don't even talk to Aquariuses." Like, good, you've saved me some time there, friend. Like, yeah. There's a great. Have you seen the show called The Orville? No, I've heard of it. You need to watch it. Okay. It's the best Star Trek that's not Star Trek. Okay. It's actually like the best Star Trek. Yeah, like literally, like it's better than any like season. Like the midpoint of season 1 to like the conclusion was the best Star Trek that was ever written, and it's not Star Trek at all. I love that. Like, and it doesn't take itself very seriously, but there's an episode where they like go down to the planet and they're doing first contact, and like they're at like this gala dinner. And one of the crew members is like, "This is so cool. This is like a celebration for my birthday," and they're like, "When are you born?" And she's like, today's my birthday. And they like all like pull guns out and they're like, "You're a so-and-so," because they like believed in like astrology so hard. Wow. That like they let that like guide their entire like civilization. Man. And they decided that one astrological sign was like the evil criminals, and they put 2 of the main characters in jail, like a concentration camp style thing, because they were that. And it was like everyone like I was like, that's an episode that everyone needs to watch. And it was like just a really cool show because like all of like the social stuff that like Star Trek tackled
Like they're tackling that now. There was like a whole episode where like you got up votes and down votes in real life, and that was like your social currency. And if you got enough down votes, you would just go to jail.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, like
not a bad idea.
you think upvotes and downvotes?
I would be so rich. Like
upvote.
Oh man, like if I just had to live off of my people skills and just like putting goodness out there, like, oh man, I would.
Yeah, but like it got really dark really fast. It was like, hug grandma, she needs an upvote. Like, to like eat. Yeah, and like you could get like executed if you got enough downvotes.
Man,
And
horoscopes,
so, like,
the slippery slope to murder.
Yeah.
So bring it. Actually, do you have anything more to say on astrology?
I just don't like I think to like encap it, I just don't like that like people don't understand like how like actual astronomy works, and therefore like if they got it, they would understand like the precession of like the Earth and know that like these things shift over time.
Yeah.
And so like that's the thing that really like grinds my gears. It's like you believe in this thing, but like you don't actually know the science well enough to like know when and where the sun is in relationship to these constellations that you say are so important.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it just frustrates me.
I think also like, I think you almost kind of validated one of my earlier comments, which is like if everyone is actually wrong about like what horoscope they are, or at least, I don't know, probably a third of the people are wrong, I guess.
Yeah, like it's like, very rare that like you still stay inside. Like I would say like your birthday is like an extreme rarity.
Yeah.
Like you have to like be at the exact like cutoff point.
So whatever it is, the people that believe there's something that they're not, like I think it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy where you will see the qualities in that zodiac that you want to see and that you resonate with, but they're all manufactured to be that way.
Right.
They are all human qualities that we all experience at some point.
Right.
And like you would tell yourself you're an Aquarius, but then you look at like you're actually a Capricorn, and you look at the Capricorn qualities and you're like, oh yeah, I actually am a lot of that too. It's just like, like it is just a fun thing. It should be. At the end of the day, it should just be a fun party level question that you ask people, like an icebreaker question. Hot take, Enneagram needs to come back, man. I need to talk about that more. Like, I am sick of asking people what their Enneagram is and getting strange looks. And they don't know. I'm like, I got that next to my ID in my wallet. Like, let's talk about it. Like, I've got like 5 Enneagram books. I'm like, man, like I love the Enneagram. I thought that was so interesting. Like, that era needs to come back. I think I'm a 3. Like, it's like the quiet introvert. No, you're not a 3, man. That's the achiever. Sorry. I don't. Is that like the whole thing about Enneagram? Yeah, like, I think you're a 4 or a 5. Like, what are the names of 4 and 5? Because I could tell. I think the 4 is like the like unique introvert, or is that a 5? I always mix those up because you're not less. No, well, they're like 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9 are really, really, really like. It's very rare I hear people be a 4, 5, 6. Or at least, like, that is like a group of individuals that I think is just a little bit more eclectic. And right. I think like you totally match up and line up with some of those things. Yeah. I don't remember which number I was, but like Reese, who's like my sister-in-law, is like big into Enneagram, and she was like, "You're definitely a 5 or definitely a 4 or something like that." And it's funny you mentioned Reese because Reese and I are the same Enneagram, and we both got so excited about that together because we're both 7s, and that's like who we are. We're like the excitable people, like the just like ignore bad feelings and only have good feelings, and it's like life's meaning is to have as many good feelings as possible. And like when we both had that, we were just like, yes, I love that. Do you know she had a kidney infection and almost died? I did, and I'm sure both of us have tried to repress that as hard as possible. Yeah, she was trying to repress the having those feelings of like, I am deathly ill. I just gotta get to this weekend. I gotta get my kids through this cheer competition, and then I can fall apart. And she did. And they were like, if you would come in 8 hours later, you would have been dead. That's wild. I'm sorry that happened. Kidney infections are awful. They're terrible. Are like real. Like they're very real. Yeah. I honestly get scared about my kidneys often. like more than I probably ever should. But like sometimes I'm like, my back hurts and I don't know why. I should probably go buy some like cranberry juice and just like
Clean it out.
Yeah, just clean it out and like no supplements, no ibuprofen or like Tylenol or like no nothing, just water, some basic electrolytes. I'm like, I'm just gonna take it easy on my kidneys for a couple days.
Yeah.
But like I get stressed out because I've known a lot of people that have had kidney stones.
Right.
And kidney infections are no joke, and there's a lot of things that like even supplements that like if you take too much, I can't remember what it is, but if you take too much of like one supplement, it can lead to a kidney infection, and that scares the hell out of me.
I think I'm gonna take like 30 days off drinking when I get back to Boone.
Me too.
Like I think I'm just gonna like I used to do this like more often than not. Like I would take at least 2 weeks off every quarter from drinking.
Yeah.
And like I've gone a bit without doing that. And I don't think like I'm in a spot that like I'm in like a trouble spot, but like I do think that like sometimes you just get into a cycle of like overindulging a bit.
Yeah.
And then that becomes like the norm. And then it's like then you're just like always overindulging a bit.
Yeah.
I just don't like it's fun to have the weekend. Like what we did in the past like 5 or 6 days, like yes,
that was like it was a feast. Like when you think of like olden days, it's like a feast would be like a week-long celebration. Like that's what we did. It's like we feasted, we had a lot of we prioritized community and entertainment and fun together in the limited time that we had while we're here together.
Right.
And it's like we are going to eat and drink and sleep in excess.
Yeah.
And that's like what a feast is. And I think that is actually a really important thing.
Yeah.
But there's also periods of non-feasting.
Yeah.
And
like just saying like I'm just gonna take it easy here.
Yeah.
And like because I do think like it's important to like let your body rest and let your body heal. And even like in like seasons of like really working out a lot, I think that's even like that's how like people will say like taking like a week or so off, like if you're like really just hitting it hard, like after like 6 months of like just taking a week off, like that leads to increased strength over time.
It does.
And so it's like I think we're just designed, whether that's like through a creator or evolutionary, but I think we're designed with like taking time off. In us, it's like it's good to like take a step back from anything you do. I think
I agree.
Which is like so, it's weird to think that. I don't know. Is that weird or is it not weird?
No, I mean I think your body and your brain, like your brain has an incredible capacity to adjust to stress or goodness or find baseline. Yeah. Your brain finds baseline pretty much over the course of a week or two. And so like if you are riding a high of a new car or a new phone, it's like eventually your brain will adjust to that just being the norm. And now you don't have that. And so I think that's exactly like say alcohol or sobriety. It's like you take a week off from that and your body feels better, your brain feels better, and you're riding that novelty. And eventually that becomes your reality, and like your body will adjust to that really quickly out of self-preservation. And then like when you go back into drinking, it's like the same kind of effect. And conversely, like if you're dealing with stress or death or grief, your body will also do that. Like that's, I think in a lot of ways, how people grind or people go through hard things is your body will adjust to grief and like over time. And out of self-preservation because it has to. Yeah.
I think we're extremely adaptable as a species. I think that's probably our most strongest, like, if you're like looking at a perk tree, like that's what we've like spec'd into adaptability the most.
100%. And I think sobriety too, you know, when I was sober for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And one of the people that I found most fascinating to listen to was Dax Shepard. He is a super, I love him so much, super sober guy, love him to death, big, and talks about it all the time. Listening to him talk about it honestly helped me a lot to stay sober. And he always talked about his story of becoming sober and why he decided to become sober.
Yeah.
Because I think he has a naturally addictive personality, he would tell you.
Yeah.
But for himself, it was like he was in the celebrity life, early age in his 20s, and he was drinking all the time because that was the culture. And eventually he like woke up and was just like, man, like I miss the feeling of like being alive on a Saturday morning. He's like, I miss the feeling of like that kid energy and just being like excited for life. And when I became sober, I did feel that. And like, I think after a month, the first month of being sober, I had all the benefits. And like in the sober community, they say being sober is life on easy mode, and like drinking is life on hard mode because, you're sleeping better, easier to think, easier to make conversations. Life does become easier, and you have that energy, and waking up is no big deal. Like working out throughout the entire day is no big deal. But eventually, like you kind of forget what that feels like.
Yeah, because you adapt.
You forget what that feels like and that healthy benefit. And yeah, I think probably a month off was the amount of time that it took for me to have that. And so maybe that's the cycle, is just, you take a few weeks off and you start to feel those things, and then maybe you're like, okay, like I can reset now and I can introduce this back.
Yeah.
And then maybe you do that for, a few weeks, and then you come off again. I don't know. I think that is pretty healthy approach.
Yeah, I think I need to take like literally 30 days off and just like make it a thing, because like,
yeah,
I just don't want to like get into a spot where I'm like, oh shit, now I'm like actually in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Because like alcoholism runs in my family, but like I'm definitely not. I would say like I'm not. I don't have a problem with alcohol, but I just like, it's just good to like check in with yourself to make sure that like you're not going down that road. In the same way, like my family has like a history of diabetes, so it's like it's also good to check in with like your sugar intake level. Like,
I think, I feel like I might upset a lot of people, but I think like that element of self-awareness is a huge part of whether you're an alcoholic or not.
Yeah.
Because I think, just like you mentioned with like diabetes and like watching what you eat, like that is at the end of the day something you can control.
Right.
And if you really want to, you can watch out for that and prevent that, or become healthier towards it, or work with a doctor to overcome that. Like type 2 speaking.
Sure.
Like type 2, not type 1. But
you're just
like for alcoholism, it's like the same thing. It's like, if you keep drinking and it becomes, like you talked about, a normal part of your daily life, like eventually, like your body will start to compulsively need that every day, and you'll start overspending to have that, and you'll like maybe skip on bills because you're out of beer in your fridge or whatever it is, and before you know it, it is a part of your body and your brain and everything about you.
Yeah.
And like then all of a sudden you're an alcoholic. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm like, I can't just have one beer. It's like my body is programmed. I have programmed my body to consistently drink anytime I drink, and I drink every day. And knowing that, like, hey, I think I'm headed that way, like I'm going to take a break and step back and reset. I think that's a huge element, having that self-awareness to preventing alcoholism. Like, I think it is more a matter of training yourself and like self-discipline than it might be like a mental illness. And I think would probably upset a lot of people. I think when you are under that influence, like you get to that end state of like being like I was talking about, like being addicted to alcohol and being on that, and like it's ingrained in your everyday life, like you are an alcoholic. Like that is alcoholism, and your body is wired to that, and you can only get dopamine from that. There's a lot of like that is the illness part mentally, but like before that, like you could have changed that probably. Like before that, you were not an alcoholic. Were not like you did not have alcoholism. You did not have a mental illness before that.
Interesting.
Like that's what I think.
Interesting.
And a lot of people would say that like even when they're sober, they're like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Like I have a mental illness.
Right.
I don't know. And this is somebody who has convinced themselves both ways that they're an alcoholic or not, who has taken time to be sober, who has like gone down that path of hard drinking, gone off of it, come back, and like
because you were and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but like from an outside perspective, you have never in my opinion, you've never had an issue with alcohol.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
I think you were kind of tricked into, like, your ex-wife was putting a lot of pressure on you to, like, not drink because she just didn't like you. I don't think she liked you having fun, and I don't think she liked you, like, because you wouldn't put up with her crap when you like it would, like, the veneer would come down a bit, and you would be like, wait a second.
Yeah, I think for her it was like, so she was very wired differently. Like she just didn't prefer drinking, and I think I associated that with normalcy, and that, like, because I prefer drinking, I'm an alcoholic. That's kind of what I told myself, and that's not the case. And so when she saw people who liked getting drunk or who liked to drink or liked to party, that was alcoholism, and that would only happen, like, very rarely. Like, I very rarely got drunk, and, like, with her, and I would only drink, like, once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. And, like, anytime I would have more than 2 drinks, though, it was like I was micromanaged and monitored, and, like, you can't have more than that. And the other part too of why I stopped drinking was she couldn't tolerate me being hungover. And I get that, like, if I ever was hungover, like, that's, like, you have to have a partner that can, like, hey, Dan's gonna be terrible at thought processes and making decisions for a day, and we're just gonna let him be. And, like, that was not the case. It was like, you're hungover, deal with it. Here's all the stuff we have to do today, and I need like action and movement from you. Like, get on it. Like, you did this to yourself. Yeah. And so the cost was too high for me. The cost of having to watch how many drinks I had, or the cost of like stumbling into a conflict because I was hungover, was not worth it. And so I removed it from my life because it was just easier to not have
the opportunity cost of drinking was way too, like,
yeah.
way out.
Correct.
Yeah.
And honestly, the fact that, like, I could make that decision with the limited number of amounts of drinks that I was having, like, I think that was all evidence I needed to let me know I didn't really have a problem. Yeah. But I don't regret going sober. I think it was great, and it was healthy. I think eventually I did regret it, though. Like, over those seasons, like, I did miss, like, out on social opportunities, or people to, like, opportunities to engage with other people, like, over holidays or celebrations, or, like, vacations. Like I missed out on a lot of really good things because I was sober. And I in a way, like, I don't regret that I missed those opportunities, but there was, like,
there was a cost. There's a cost associated with anything.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like there's a cost associated with drinking.
Correct.
And so it's just like, what are you willing to give up? And, like, I was sober for about a year and a half, and I don't think I missed out on anything. Well, and you may feel differently about this because you were there for all that. But, like, I think, but mine was, the reason I chose sobriety was, like, out of a fear of, like, my girlfriend being mad at me.
Yeah.
And because, like, there was just one incident that, like, led to her, like, I didn't cheat on her, nothing happened, but there was a drunken night at Buffalo Wild Wings where we got kicked out, and, like, this waitress was hitting on me, and you appropriately said, no, he's got a girlfriend, you need to stop. So you had my back. Yeah. And I remember texting you the next day being like, thank you for having my back. Because, like, I don't think anything would have happened. Because it wouldn't. 3 of my best friends were there, and you guys would not have let me do anything stupid. Yeah. Just because I was intoxicated. Right. But, redacted. They went through my phone, and they, like, saw that, like, I had said that to you, and then they thought that, like, brought all these, like, thoughts into question. And, like, there's so many red flags in that one argument that we had. The fact that she felt like she had to go through my phone to trust me, and, like, that she read all of this fear into that one interaction, that I just went sober for, like, a year and a half after that. Yeah. And, like,
in a lot of ways, that's kind of like how I responded when I went sober too. It was just like the cost wasn't worth it, right?
Yeah, and then I remember like her like a year and a half later being like, you should get a beer with dinner, and I was like, and then that was literally it because I was just waiting for her approval to like go back to that life.
Yeah.
And like it just was a weird, I don't know, like that was just a weird time of my life.
Yeah.
It was a weird time for both of our lives. Yeah. But like I don't regret, because that year like I got really in shape, because like we weren't going out.
Yeah.
Like we just weren't. So there was just like it limited the things you could do, and so like being really fit was just like part of that process.
Yeah.
And so I don't regret it, but I regret making that decision for the reason I made it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make
like,
sense.
It's one thing to say like I'm going to take a month off drinking for my own health.
Correct.
I think that's a very positive, healthy decision. But to say I'm not going to do something that I think is fun because I don't want to hurt, or I'm worried about how that will make someone else feel. I think there is a bit of that like is good, and like sacrifice in a relationship is good, but like but not for the reason of like I'm afraid.
Correct. Yeah, I think, and that is critical too on changing habits or changing things is you have to want it, and it has to be a decision you make for yourself. Like
right.
You cannot, like an alcoholic cannot become sober for someone else.
Right.
They will eventually relapse. Like they have to want it. And they have to want it every day, and they have to remind themselves every day to not drink.
Right.
And like I've seen people fail consistently because they were doing it for their partner, or they were doing it for their doctor, or the government, like the state intervening. You can't drink, you know. Yeah. But like for me, it's like I am glad that I did it for myself. Like I was like, I wanted to not drink, and that made it easier. And I think that's why I don't regret that season.
Yeah.
And I can see why like that is reflected for you too. Like why you might regret making that because you were making it for someone else.
Yeah, but not for like the right, like
not the right reason.
Yeah, I feel like if like it's one thing for your partner to come to you and be like, I think this would be good for our relationship if you did X.
Yeah.
I think that's a really solid way of asking someone to change a behavior.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but I don't know, marriage is so tricky because like you want to sacrifice for your partner if it's something that's going to make them happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think compromise is definitely necessary. But I think at the end of the day, like it needs to be mentally justified for that to make sense for you too. Like I think like if your partner comes to you with something that they think is good for the relationship and you don't agree with that and you're just doing it to acquiesce, that with big decisions like that is unhealthy. Yeah. And you have to have a longer, deeper conversation, and your partner needs to endure that with you to get you to a place where you fully understand and agree and get on the same page, and then you make that decision together.
Yeah, that would be like Hannah coming to me and saying, I want to have kids. And like, then me doing that just to make her happy.
Correct.
Like, that would just be a really, really, really bad choice.
Bad choice. And you have to get, like, you both as a team would have to get to the point where, like, you feel good or agree with having kids. Like, because otherwise you're just bitter, you're resentful, you are in a bad, like, situation at that point, like, in my mind.
Yeah, and that would put a pressure on the relationship that wasn't there before. Yeah. That would lead to negative outcomes.
Correct. And I mean, I think for small decisions, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I think that's also what you have to decide is like if your partner comes to you and they're like, hey, I feel like we got to do this, or I want you to do this because of like, it's good for us, you know, that kind of element. And you don't agree with it in your brain, or you have resistance to it or reluctance to it, but you do it anyways for them. Like, if that is a smaller decision, or if that's something that you can honestly ask yourself, hey, if I do this for them, like, how much is that going to cost me? Like, am I okay with that?
Yeah.
Like, because there are a lot of things where like that is like, yeah, like I'd be happy to do that for you.
Yeah.
Like happy to do it, you know, whatever it is.
I feel like sometimes that like sets up the opportunity for the expectation of like future doing that thing. Like,
Yeah.
it, like,
You could. Yeah, you're right.
I would much rather my partner say no. Like, perfect example. Hey, can you pay this bill on the credit card?
Mm-hmm.
Can you take care of that for me? If she's not going to do that, I would much rather, or like if she's gonna feel like she's gonna forget to do it, or she's not comfortable doing it, or whatever, I would much rather my partner say no, I don't want to, than say yes and forget, or say yes and not follow through.
Yeah.
Like it's or the I think the optimal answer is I would love to do that. Can you just help me, like, remind me to do that?
Yeah.
And then like I'm like, oh, of course, like I can call you tomorrow. Like when do you want the reminder? Because I would love to do that. Because like I think Hannah and I are just wired differently. Because like if you ask me to do something, I'm probably just going to immediately do it because I just want to get it out of the way. Like, you know, if you're like, you know, if we were, or if Hannah asked me like, hey, can you clean the kitchen? I'd be like, yes. And I'm just going to stop whatever I'm doing and literally just go and clean the kitchen. That way it's done so I don't forget. But like Hannah has to like find the mental energy and space to then do that activity.
Yeah.
And that is, and I've had to learn that like her timing is not my timing. And that doesn't make it wrong.
Mm-mm.
I just need to know when. And so we've been working on like, hey, can you do that? And she'll be like, yes, but I'm not going to do it until tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll be like, can you help me and remind me to do it? And then it gets done.
Yeah.
But like the beginning of our relationship was really like there was tension there because like I'd be like, hey, can you do this? And she was just like would forget.
Yeah.
Not because she was like trying to get out of doing something or there was literally she would just forget or just like, or would do it, but like a week later than when I would do it. And like, that's just like a mismanagement of expectations.
I agree. I think like even if like she forgot to do it and preempted that with you, like, oh, hey, forgot to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Like just so you know, I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
What would your reaction be?
I would literally just be like, no worries. Like, do you need my help to remember to do that?
But I think it's the shock of like, if you discover that and your expectation isn't met.
Yeah.
Like that's what is
then
upsetting.
There's some frustration.
Yeah, frustration. Yeah.
Because it just feels like
it's just managing expectations.
Yeah, because like I don't want to do everything.
Yeah. I think too, from her perspective, like I deal with that a lot, and I dealt with that a lot in my past relationships of forgetting to do things. And arguably, I had way too much to do on my plate. That could be admitted on both sides. Had way too much to do.
Yeah.
But like I was afraid. I let anxiety prevent me from even preempting. Like that time. Oh man, I'm forgetting the story.
Which story?
The glass in your foot story. It's
like
I'll let anxiety like prevent me from bringing things up with other people that are actually constantly on my mind. That I haven't done, and it's just like the anxiety of expecting the response of
anger,
or like disappointment or frustration.
Yeah.
Prevents me from speaking up or like sharing, preempting that.
Yeah.
And it's so dumb. It's like you could comfort me as much as you want, but it's like that little piece of anxiety is probably always going to be there.
Yeah.
I think honestly, because I bet Hannah and I probably had similar childhood development, and that's like ingrained.
For sure.
That little bit of anxiety is ingrained in us. But yeah, I think having a partner that knows that about them, that probably helps you like be more compassionate or graceful when that happens. But also like, okay, like Hannah, work with me. We do have to work and make that better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's figuring out the systems that you need in order to be successful. So like I don't have a perfect memory at all. Like, and so we've just decided like everything that we want to do just goes in the calendar, regardless of whether or not like, you know, there's some stuff that's like TBD on our calendar, but like I literally look at the calendar every Sunday night and I'm like, I know what this week is going to look like. And I can set the expectation, and then I can check in with her. It's like, hey, is girls' night still happening on Tuesday?
Yeah.
And what time are you planning on being home? Which, like, I don't need to, like, she could say 4 a.m, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But, like, I just, like, I'm like, if I go to sleep and I am woken up, then I am awake until time to go to work.
Oh man.
Like, that's just how my body works.
Yeah.
Like, and so we've had instances where she has come home later than I thought, and I had just fallen asleep in our bed, and then she like comes in, and she's not being loud. It's just I just wake up because I'm a light sleeper, and then now I'm awake. And so like if she had just told me, "Hey, I'm gonna be in at 2,"
great,
then I would stay awake till 2 and then just go to bed with her because like. But I would just get upset and frustrated. It's like, you said you were gonna be home at 10, but now you're getting home at 2, and so like I just need you to be like, hey, it's not gonna be 10.
Yeah.
Like even if that's like mid-flight, of like, hey, like we're having fun. Like it's not gonna be 10 o'clock. Like it's gonna be like closer to like we're gonna shut this bar down. Great. Do you need a ride? Like what do you need from me? Like
I think that's a pretty healthy.
Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to like micromanage her time.
No.
I'm just trying to like coexist with her in the best possible way for both of us. Because I
love how you put that.
Grumpy asshole when I don't get enough sleep. And she would say that.
I am just trying to peacefully coexist as best I can.
Yes.
Like
because sometimes that's what marriage is. Sometimes marriage is just like
figuring out how to coexist and cohabitate. Like that is a big part of marriage.
Because, I mean, we've said this before on this podcast of, like, you and I lived together for 4 years. It took us 3 years of living together to figure out how to live with each other.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that's a pretty standard amount of time for, like, people. I almost said couples.
We were a couple.
Yeah. For, like, couples to, like, figure it all out. Because, like, I think people are very complicated creatures.
Yeah.
And it's, like, you know, it just took... You know, and we're still learning how to live together because we're still in like the first 2 years of our marriage. And like, that's just, it's a growing and evolving thing. And like, part of it is like, she was just like, you just need to be more patient with me. And I was like, yeah, you're actually just completely 100% right. I would say I'm significantly more patient than I was in my 20s. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dan's like, I know.
Oh, I know.
I got yelled down.
I know. Yeah. I love that she's like, I just need you to be more patient with me. I love that.
Yeah. And like, you know, and that's not always easy especially when you're frustrated.
Yeah.